Last speech of the day from Vonnie, who works with the National Union of Students in Scotland as the Women's Officer. So I will hand straight over.
Okay, marvellous, thank you. Yeah, oh, thanks. Yeah, so good afternoon. My name's Vonnie Sandlan. I'm the full-time Women's Officer for the National Union of Students in Scotland. And I'll just give you a quick overview of what that actually means. The National Union of Students in Scotland is a federation, and we have, I think we have 15 universities and 23 colleges in Scotland who are members of the union. And we're a bottom-up organisation. What that means is I don't sit in my office and tell universities this is what you should do. Universities and colleges set policy and set direction of what they want me to work on, and I work on that during my period of office, which is a year which runs from the 1st of July to the 30th of June each year. And so this is my first sabbatical year as Women's Officer, and I am loving it. So thanks very much to Jo for inviting me, and actually thanks to all of you for coming out on a Saturday to this event. I am absolutely blown away by what Jo's put together today, and I'm really glad that I've had the opportunity to come and meet you. I was saying to someone just a second ago that I'm both incredibly nervous and Glaswegian, which means that I tend to talk at a rate of about 20,000 miles an hour. So if I'm going too fast to be comprehensible, just give me a wave and be like, oh no. So yeah, so I'm really glad to see that so many of you have turned out today to talk about violence against women. But I think actually I want to highlight the fact that we've got a good few men in the audience today as well, and how important that is when we're talking about systemic and endemic violence against women. So as we enter the 21st century, we're faced with the greatest challenge that we as a population have ever faced, and that's the fight to recognise every woman as a free and conscious human being, regardless of her age, her disability, her class, her race or her sexuality, and being the property of nobody but herself and equal in every way to men. And until we win this fight, we're never going to reach our potential as a people. And there can be no justice at all while society is passive over what I've already called an epidemic of violence faced by 1 in 3 women, which is estimated to be 1 billion women and girls across the world, and we make up 51% of the population. So Emmeline Pankhurst said that it's right for men to fight for freedom, then it is right for women to fight for freedom and for the freedom of the children they bear. I want to talk a little bit about the importance of healthy relationships and love. Now, I'm a little bit older than most of you, I would guess. I'm 32. And my experience of sex ed was in pairs. Here's a condom. This is how you put it on a cucumber. Now, when I first saw a penis, I was a bit flummoxed because it had a foreskin and there was no foreskin in the cucumber that I'd been practising on so enthusiastically, I would say. I was doing it very well in the cucumber, and now I have 4 children. I'm not saying the two things are linked, but you know. Anyway, so my practice cucumber obviously didn't have a foreskin, whereas a lot of penises do. And seriously, what I'm highlighting here is that that was the sum total of my sex ed. There was no conversations whatsoever at all of what a healthy relationship looks like, about what same-sex relationships look like, about low-level, the reality of low-level abuse and control within relationships, about power. And I think when we're open and honest about sex, we create a safer space to talk about sexual violence. And I think what we have to bear in mind when we're talking about sexual violence is that there's still a huge amount of stigma around about it. The shame should never be on victims and survivors, it should always be on the perpetrators of sexual violence. It's not for women to just deal with it better, it's for men to stop. I find it really interesting when we talk about the patriarchy and we talk about rape as if, you know, men just can't help themselves. I'm just going to pop out for a pint of milk and have a wee rape while I'm there. I think that demeans men, and it demeans men's abilities and capabilities and allies, or being allies to women. And that's why, as I mentioned earlier on, I'm so proud to see that there's men that have thought this was important enough to give up their Saturday for and come along today. So. Oh, yeah, sorry, just to mention that. Get carried away sometimes, got all these notes and then I go away and I venture in my head. So what I want to say as well is that we're talking about sex and relationships guidance. We've been really proud this year to work with Sexpression, and we support their call to the government for better and comprehensive sex and relationship guidance, which is compulsory in schools. But also, it can't just end there. We need to be working with students at colleges and universities to deliver workshops which specifically talk about more than just consent. NUS runs workshops called I Heart Consent, which I'm not sure if you've heard of. I'm quite happy to chat to you about them afterwards if you like. It's basically to start getting women and men talking about what consent looks like within the context of a healthy and safe sexual relationship. So, when women stand together, we are unstoppable, and when we drum and dance and rise and make noise, we're taking back that power that we don't always have. And we know violence against women crosses cultural and national boundaries, and that's why I'm really proud today that we are all, in Scotland, joining our sisters and the men who love them in 200 countries across the world. But the issues that we're talking about, it's not just reserved to having better SRE in schools, and wider society. As much as we want our colleges and our universities to be role models to wider society, it's not the reality. The National Union of Students has carried out research over the past 6 or 7 years that I'll reference while I'm talking to you. It's identified prevailing sexism, ladism and a culture of harassment at 50% of respondents' universities. And while I'm sure I don't have to provide you with a definition, lad culture was defined by the study participants as a group or pack mentality prevalent in activities such as sport, with heavy alcohol consumption, and banter, which is often sexist, misogynist and homophobic. And at the same time, these respondents were given us stories of sexual harassment and molestation, commonly reporting them, along with accounts of sexual violence. I mentioned to Jo earlier on when we were chatting before this, that Glasgow Rape Crisis approached us about 2 years ago because they were at the stage where 1 in 2 women coming to them for support was coming from a college or university background. Glasgow Rape Crisis covers 10 institutions in and around the region, and they are so over capacity that they were worried they weren't going to be able to deliver a service anymore. We've worked with the 10 different institutions and colleges to put together a package that's gone to each of their boards, asking each college and university in Glasgow to provide £7,000 a year each to have a dedicated student-only project as part of Glasgow Rape Crisis work, and we're really hopeful that's going to come to fruition. The difficulty, of course, is getting 10 institutions to all agree to the same level of support at the same time. %68% of the respondents to our 2010 report, which is called Hidden Marks, reported being the victim of 1 or more kinds of sexual harassment on their campuses. 68% of respondents. I'm sure you've all sat and had chats with your friends about your experiences, and as I get more confident in my feminism and more comfortable to have these kind of open conversations with my friends, it makes me heartbroken to hear the few of us that haven't had those experiences, because the majority of us have and will through our lifetimes. And let me tell you, that's not acceptable. And it's why I'm so proud of every single one of you for being here today and coming along to talk about this. And I wanted to tell you as well that I was doing a wee bit of Facebook snooping on yesterday before I came up, and I listened to Christina on Spectrum this morning talking about the health benefits of sex, and it got me thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm a teacher, or will be when I go back and finish my degree. I've got 1 year left to go. And I remember when we were talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and sort of physical needs, and sex is actually specifically mentioned as a physical need, and I remember in class going, oh my god, I can't believe I talked about sex in university. And actually, how great would it have been if that had been opened right up and been more than just sex is physical needs, let's move on to other needs now. You know, and actually had an open and broad conversation about that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just wanted to say, keep fighting, you're doing incredible work. When I came here today, I thought most of you wouldn't really know what it is that I do. So I have only prepared a short speech, and I thought that perhaps you might want to have a chat, if you feel comfortable and safe doing so, about what your experiences of lad culture is or are on your campuses. So I'm throwing it open to you. Is there anything that you want to chat about, ask me about the work that we're doing or how you can get involved with it on your own campus? Then now's the time.
I was just, I think one of the big things in Andrew specifically is that we have an organisation called the KK, which is quite infamous. Yeah, so you know the play?
Is this a fraternity?
Not exactly.
Okay.
What's it called in Oxford? The Wellington Club.
Right, okay,
it's kind of, like, it's not a great equivalent, but that's kind of where it's at.
Yeah.
And they're incredibly misogynistic. And it is lad culture, but it's lad culture with men who have extraordinary amounts of money as well, which
think it's such a situation that I think is reserved to institutions like St Andrews or Edinburgh or Dundee, the ancients. And it's very, very difficult to break that kind of endemic misogyny. Because the thing is, I think last week a university got in touch with me, and you possibly saw it if you read any of their student newspapers, because 4 of their 11 football teams had gone out the night blacked up and didn't see any problem with this whatsoever, thought that this was absolutely appropriate because they were going out to celebrate, and it was at the African Cup. I don't know anything about football, so this is my understanding. And they felt that in the context of going out to celebrate this football cup, that it was entirely appropriate to go out blacked up. And I genuinely believe it's because nobody had ever sat down and said to them, you know, that's racist. And of course, when it came out all over the papers, and the university and the student union were like, you know, this is absolutely unacceptable, and hauled them all in, they were so belligerent because they had been caught doing something wrong that I think they didn't understand was wrong. I think, as activists for equality, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place sometimes, because if I spent my time calling out every single act of sexism, of racism, of misogyny, of xenophobia that I saw, I would do nothing else. What's the alternative? I did mention it in my speech, and I genuinely believe this. It's not women's place to fight against endemic misogyny and endemic sexism. I think it's our place to stand up and say, I won't be treated like this, and I won't accept this in my space, from my friends, or in my education. And I think when we talk about sexism, we talk about lad culture, I think it's really important to remember that it's not just about what we see and hear around about us in social spaces. Like, I don't know about you, but doing teacher training and getting my reading list out at the start of the year, there was maybe 2 women out of 20 who were referenced there. My reading list is full of dead white European men, and I don't think that the greatest thinkers in the world are the dead white European men my university are referencing. So perhaps a little bit of a long, convoluted way to say, I am really sorry that you're dealing with that absolute horse shit on your campus. It is appalling, and it's so entitled, I suppose. I think you said that word already. All I can say is what you are doing on campus is phenomenal. And I was talking to Jo and some of the other women up the stairs about Spectrum, about FemSoc, and I was saying that it's really amazing to me to see a FemSoc which has such a spectrum of views and perspectives, which is still all pulling together, getting on, producing some incredible content. And I think it's really important to remember that you are all volunteers, and you really are doing fantastic work. It is a never-ending job, and it depresses me to say that. Jo and I were talking earlier on about sort of being feminists, and Jo, I hope I didn't mention this, had said that her mum was a feminist, and her mum was almost angry that Jo is still a feminist because she thought by now we wouldn't have to deal with this. When I first got elected to my job, I didn't sleep for the first 2 weeks because I literally had it in my head. I was like, oh my God, I need to single-handedly smash the patriarchy, and I've only got 1 year. And I think it's really important to remember that actually, you know, this has been an ongoing struggle for quite a substantial amount of time. We are making strides, we are making progress. Is it fast enough for my liking? No, of course it's not. But we keep fighting. And we keep going on. You going to say something?
Yeah, it's a fun definition really that you mentioned of black as being a lad.
Yeah.
Most of the bit about being sort of homophobic and misogynistic. Now, I've got most of my friends are women. It's just that I'm more comfortable around sisters. Really, but I have acquaintances who I would consider lads, and I've got one friend who also I would consider a lad. But I don't really see them. They're not misogynistic or homophobic in any way, but it's because they like drinking and they Now, is that really like that? Because obviously.
I think so. I hope you don't interrupt me. I think there's a really important distinction to be made between people who like having a drink, because I love wine. I love wine, let me tell you that. I tried very hard in my life to set an example in terms of the kind of equality that I want to see. Do I get it right all the time? Probably not. Do we all get it right all the time? No, probably not. But it's about striving to be better people. When we talk about lad culture specifically, it's not just about alcohol. It's about alcohol as a factor within that culture of behaviour. And I think it's really important to remember as well, that you could have a group of 10 people being all belligerent and being like, oh yeah, and saying misogynist stuff. And you could look at that group of 10 people and think, they all think the same thing. And part of the problem with lad culture is that chances are 2 or 3 of those people don't feel comfortable at all within the context of that conversation, that behaviour, but don't feel able to challenge it because of the culture around it and because of the backlash of, oh, well, you're just a humourless feminist then, aren't you? Which, you know, I cannot be the only person in the room that said that flung at them. You know, Joe's smiling, so clearly I'm not. You know, so I think it's really important to set a distinction between that. I know some amazing people. I know some amazing men who really like a drink, but it doesn't suddenly turn them into super misogynist or racist or homophobic people. You know, I think we're talking about a very specific culture.
Something exacerbated by institutions like schooling and university.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think when I mentioned the sort of football team that I mentioned earlier on, that's actually the 3rd major incident in a year and a half. And the institution is just not, in my opinion, recognising it as an endemic problem. They're seeing it as one-off. It wasn't all the football team. I think it was 3 different sports teams at the same institution, and the institution seeing it as 3 separate incidents and not actually emblematic of a wider problem with equalities and inclusion. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to kind of add to that, I live with 2 guys, all of whom are in the Shinty team here in St Andrews, and individually they are all lovely guys, they are all sweethearts. You get enough beers in them and put them with 20 other guys who are just running around hitting each other with sticks, and suddenly they are not very nice people to be around. And it's also self-perpetuating in a way, because like they have like huge traditions about getting drunk. So for instance, today, they're all going on their first away match of the semester, and they have tradition that when they come back across the bridge, that they will have to down like a bottle of port or something. And one of my housemates, Jack, says to me this morning, I really don't want to do it, I really don't. I'm just going to end up smashed, I'm not going to be able to give my girlfriend a nice Valentine's Day, I'm going to just come back and be sick, blah blah blah. And I was like, no. He's like, no, I can't not.
Yeah.
Because I would be ridiculed.
Yeah. And it wouldn't just be ridicule for a couple of days, that's the kind of thing that's going to stick with him for the duration of his university life.
Yeah, it's such a problem, and he's such a lovely guy, but once he's had a couple of beers in him, he's then susceptible to all the other lads around him being like, hey, down the bottle.
And do you know what, I'm willing to bet that if he's feeling like that, there will be at least 1 or 2 others in the group that feel like that too, and that's what we're talking about that group and pack mentality, where it doesn't matter if a few people feel like that, there's no system or structure in place for that to be challenged effectively. So, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. What you were saying about people doing blackface, essentially, it's not just sports clubs. I was with a friend of mine at an event held by Edinburgh University during their Freshers Week, and it was one of these nightclub party type things.
I think I heard about this.
Society.
Yeah.
And you saw people doing blackface, you saw them dressed up as Native Americans, and I had to leave. What was this reason?
Because nobody had ever told me it was wrong.
It was one of these fancy dress things, and you know, there's nothing there to say you can't really do this because of X, Y, and Z. You'd think that it would be something that we would already know, but we obviously don't.
I think, so this is an interesting argument here, because I think that as a movement, sometimes we get it wrong when we deal with people who do indulge in that kind of behaviour. Because what I've seen happening is people who do that are shamed and ridiculed and cut out and never given an opportunity to kind of come back and be like, do you know what, actually, I didn't know what I was doing was wrong because I was ignorant to it, but now that I've educated myself, I've been educated, I recognise how hurtful and damaging and offensive my actions were, and I want to apologise and make amends for that. We don't have, I don't perceive that we have that kind of approach to things. Can I understand it? Yeah, of course I can, especially when we're talking about feminism and safe spaces and women's rights to feel safe in the environments in which they live and study and socialise. Do I wish it was different? Yeah, I do. Because I don't think that people are inherently bad, I don't think people are inherently racist or sexist. I think it's social structures and societal structures that make this kind of thinking go unchallenged, I suppose. And university is supposed to be the place where you come to expand your your thinking and your mindset on a variety of issues, including who you are within the context of the wider world. It's still horrible to see in here. And I think that's why I'm really proud that NUS this year we've invested so much time and effort into educating us to why these things are wrong, rather than just being like, you're a misogynist if you do this, because it's not helpful, I don't think, in the long run. Yeah. I probably couldn't give you any specific off the top of my head. There is an awful lot of work, and awful lot of great work being done on campuses. University of Manchester did a fantastic campaign called We Get It, and they basically went to not just students, right up to like their vice chancellors and staff members, lecturers, support staff, and talked to them about what the impact was. I mean, they really were talking about sort of sexual violence and rape. But when it sort of got them to talk about, like, this is what our reality is, this is what we feel when this, and University of Manchester as well, I'm not sure if you're aware, over the last year they've had like quite a number of rapes happening I don't think it's on the campuses, but around and nearby the campuses. Oh right, okay, so you're aware of it. But University of Manchester Students' Union, it's particularly well resourced. They've got, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think they've got about 6 SABs, if not more, SABs, sabbatical officers, full-time student officers. They've got a great staff team, and they're supported very well by the university to do their campaigning work. It didn't surprise me that they took that work up very, very well. If you brought that up to another institution, I don't know what your institution's like, I haven't got an awful lot of experience with St Andrews. I was a president of a college 2 years ago, and I know if I had gone and tried to run that campaign at my college, I was being laughed out the door. You know, I can see exactly what the rhetoric and the answers would have been. We don't have a problem here with lad culture, would have been what we'd have seen. And so I think, in short answer to your question, I can't remember anything off the top of my head. There definitely is stuff going on, but if you want to give me your email address, I can send you over some stuff later on, and feel free to use it or not as you wish. So, yeah.
I was wondering if there's any work going on in schools, because my last couple of years at school, now I'm in this tiny boarding school, like the Cotswolds, very conservative and stuff. And my school was 3/4 guys, 1/4 girls, and there was basically a gang of guys. There's definitely this thing in culture with lots of drinking. Really, drinking, but it wasn't enabled. Their behaviour wasn't necessarily enabled by drinking. They would pick on girls. I mean, I'm sure they picked on guys as well, but everybody was like enveloped into the group, and then there's like the fear of being ridiculed, so everyone just joined in. But they would pick on girls. They had this game where it's called like the truth game or something, where they come up with the meanest thing. Each of them come up with the meanest thing about a particular person, and the person with the meanest thing would have to go and tell that person what it was. And basically run by this one guy who was a psychopath. Just saying that he was horribly abusive towards his girlfriend. Went through her phone, deleted all her contacts, said horrible things to her, embarrassed her in front of people.
Do you know what? That's, I literally mentioned when I was chatting to you about the importance of being able to recognise controlling behaviour, and I am willing to bet that she was just like, but he loves me, but he's looking out for me.
There is this mindset where, like, if being treated badly sort of makes you feel like you need to, especially if you've got problems with self-confidence, you need to like make yourself up to that person.
Yeah.
But this guy, deputy head of school, this was going on before he was elected. He was elected after all of this. There was so many, like, I was sort of, me and this other girl were the only top girls in the oldest in our house. And there were so many girls that would come to us crying about stuff that these guys had done. And they went to some of the teachers about it, and they just were like, we can't do anything about it. And like the head teacher had other problems, like with sexism, like when it came to sports, guys would go for a week for football tournaments, girls would get a weekend and then had to be back before chapel. And that couldn't be funded by the school, whereas the guys would go to Spain and that would be funded.
That's your structural sexism in place right there, isn't it?
Exactly.
So you're talking about school. So the Scottish education system and the education system in England and Wales are entirely separate. Education is a devolved issue up here, so it's dealt with the Scottish Government. I can talk to you a little bit about what's been done across the UK, but my level of knowledge in England and Wales isn't as great as in Scotland. So actually across the whole of the UK, we work with an organisation called Sexpression. I actually think they've got a branch based here. Do you know what they do? No. Sexpression.
I've played bits.
Okay, so Sexpression is basically, it's a national organisation. It's made up of students who do medical and health sciences, and they're essentially a group of volunteers that offer to go out into schools and deliver proper, intensive and holistic sex and relationships education. And the programme that they deliver is absolutely amazing. It's linked with the Curriculum for Excellence, which is a new curriculum up here that schools go through, and it takes, in Scottish schools, it goes right from age 3 up to age 16. So it's very progressive. It's based on the sort of Swedish model of education, which is all about play-based learning until age 7, and then sort of more structured learning after that. And the programme that they delivered has been, as far as I'm aware, don't quote me on it, has been kind of reviewed and cleared by the Scottish Government. It is entirely appropriate. They have got it sort of separated by age levels. They're willing to go out and deliver it for a small fee to schools, and schools aren't taking them up on it. And I know that's a problem in Scotland. I believe it's replicated across the rest of the UK. And the problem is that it's not at the moment compulsory to deliver any kind. There's no brief for what you have to cover in SRE, and even more challenging than that, there's a completely separate curriculum for Catholic education, where you don't have to touch it at all, which is hugely problematic. And it's also, if we're being honest, a two-tier education system that disadvantages pupils who do education in Catholic schools. I find it very problematic. It's 2015, and we still have a structure where parents can, if they want to, withdraw their children from any kind of SRE education. You can't withdraw your child from maths, so why are we letting people do it for SRE? I could rant about this at length for a long time.
There was a girl in my school when there was sex ed. She was a highly conservative Christian who's now doing veterinary medicine, but in evolution. When we were doing sex ed, she chose to miss it. She chose to, and then when we had the HPV vaccine, she chose not to get it because she asserted that when she has sex, the boy she has sex with will also be a virgin, so she won't be the chance of getting HPV.
Good luck.
Yeah, and then she refused to take the sex ed classes, which
My mum
cool.
pulled me out of sex ed.
Really?
Because my mum was really Christian. She pulled me out of sex ed when I was in middle school. And then when I got to high school, the teachers didn't let her, but she wanted to.
I was fascinated by sex ed. Like, I am not joking. I think I was like a little bit off the hinges when I was wee. But, you know, I was also pregnant at 18, so they never saw that coming. Yeah.
And then
Sorry, what were you saying?
Sorry, 2 points. First thing is, speaking as someone who's been in an abusive relationship, you don't recognise that as abuse until it's ended.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Because even if you do know the warning signs, that person has, sorry to use the language here, but that person has fucked with your head so much that you're not going to recognise them.
Yeah.
And another point is, I know that this is an exception to the general problem, but I went to a Catholic school, and the sex education that I got there was actually a lot more comprehensive than the sex education that my friends have said they received at the schools that they went
That's
to.
really interesting. To my understanding, and to be fair, I've not been in every school in Scotland, that's generally not in Scotland the reality for people who are at Catholic medium education here. And the difficulty is as well, it is so different school to school. I know there's a school in Glasgow called St Ninian's, which is apparently like one of the best performing state schools in the whole of Scotland. And I know for a fact that they do a fantastic SRE programme there. But then I also know that there's a private Catholic school in Glasgow called St Aloysius, which doesn't touch it with a barge pole. And I don't think it's just a Catholic versus not Catholic issue. I think it's a problem that there is no legislation around it. I think it has to be built into every child's education. And it's funny because I remember when the Curriculum for Excellence was first released, and it's like all of the papers were, they're going to be talking about lesbians to our nursery children, and it's just like, and? Like, I have kids. My kids are all perfectly aware of what the difference is between a homosexual and a heterosexual relationship. does it suddenly change their mind view? No, it doesn't. Or potentially it does in a positive way. You know, it's not going to convince them either way that they are suddenly all going to be lesbians because they knew what they were when they were like 3 or 4. But I think what it does though is removes that attitude of stigma for children at school, other children who are their classmates. My little boy, he's going to be 14 soon, that's how old I am, came home from school in primary 7 really upset because one of the boys in his class kept using the word gay as like a negative. Like, oh, that's pure gay, you're pure gay, I can't believe you don't want to play football, you're pure gay. You know, and he was like, so upset about it, and he eventually stood up in class and he was like, I'm not gay, I don't think, but I wouldn't have a problem even if I was. And bless him, this was in the Easter before he finished up primary 7, and the bullying got so bad in that period that I seriously considered pulling him out and not making him finish primary 7. And he was coming home every night in floods of tears, and the school weren't doing anything to challenge that either. That is so wrong. And thank God he's in a far more progressive school now, where he can have those kind of conversations with his friends, and they're so lovely, his little group of friends, completely off the record. It'll kill me if I tell you, I can't believe I'm recording stuff. He had to have a very sensitive operation in November, and I said to him, like, you know, have you talked to any of your friends about it, you know, so they know why they're off school? And he was like, well, actually, I talked to my friend Simon in the circumstances. Like, it had to be done when he was 6, and he was telling me actually it wasn't too bad, and I should send him Snapchats after it. And I was like, Snapchats of what? And he's like, no, Snapchats of my face. And I was like, okay, that's another conversation we're going to have later. Yeah, but I think, like I mentioned when I was doing my speech, I think the more open we are about sex, the more space that we're providing for people to be able to talk about, I hate using the word even, not just sexual violence or unhealthy sexual relationships, but also, like, you know, querying what or who you are and what you like and what you don't like. So I think education is the golden ticket. I think if you can, at a very early age, start talking to people about what is and what isn't healthy, what is and isn't appropriate, what is and what isn't okay, I think that we don't get to this stage in our lives and still have this endemic sexist culture. Is it going to be a solution to everything? No, it won't be. But I think it's definitely a place to start. I'm aware you've had your hand up for a little while. Can I go to you and then come back to you? Is that okay?
Yeah, so I have very bad sex education in my school, but it wasn't just the fact that it was bad, it was also the amount of time we spent on it.
Yeah.
You have 1 PSE class, maybe 2 in the entire year. The main sex education that I've got, and my friends got, we were just living our lives, you know, go to parties and you try things, and the thing you notice is that the guys who are more aggressive, the guys who are very much, they prey. That's the best verb to use, actually. They're the ones who get the girlfriend first. They're the ones who have sex first. And you see that behavior and you think to yourself, well, I'm trying to be nice, I'm trying to talk to them, and ask them questions about, you know, why do they think this way, why do they think this way. But I'm not. It's a sad thing, but I'm not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And that kind of reverberates in your mind.
Yeah, of course. And I think that comes right back to what you were saying earlier on about not being able to recognise the signs of being in an abusive relationship. And I think what you're actually describing is peer pressure. It's like, you know, push, and I'll get a girlfriend, push, and she'll have sex with me. And it doesn't matter whether she's comfortable and confident with it, she's been talked into it. And I think that's, I mean, there's a multitude of issues in what you're saying. And I think the only thing, it's actually quite funny, has everyone here seen Maiden Dagenham? No. Oh, you need to watch Maiden Dagenham, it's the best film ever. So there's a scene, Maiden Dagenham's all about the strikes in the Ford factory in Dagenham in the 80s, I think it was. And there's a scene where the kind of ringleader of the strike, her husband also works at the factory, and the whole factory's been shut down because the seamstresses have gone on strike about where they've been put on the pay grades and the pay scales. And her husband comes home and she's just about to march off to go to the trade union conference. And he's like, I just don't know what more you want from me. I come home, I don't hit you, I bring you all my wages. And she's like, great, this is what we're celebrating as a success. You don't batter me and you bring home your pay. Well done. Great, elevate yourself to a higher standard. And see that turning point for me was like, that's brilliant. And that's absolutely right. So what I would say is, these guys that you're talking about aren't going to have long-term relationships with these girls. And they're going to be hopefully really lonely later in their life until they recognise that what they're doing is abusive.
Those guys were friends. I liked them.
Yeah.
But it was like back in school, maybe.
Yeah.
It was something different.
Yeah.
And there were friends that they've gone to great relationships. Like,
Yeah.
they were good people. I think originally we were saying about Shindu. Good friends. They're great people. And I find it difficult to be negative towards them.
I have no problem with it.
It's the thing that I would say is it's very.
It's a difficult one to get your head around, and I think the only thing that I would say, and what you're saying I think is really important, is that we don't talk about better sex and relationship education because we want to protect women. We talk about better sex and relationship education because we want everyone, man or woman, to be in a safe and healthy relationship and to understand what the danger signs are. And that's not just for you, that's for the other person in the relationship as well. Or not just am I being treated badly, but am I treating my partner badly? Am I treating my partner well? I think to mention again what I said earlier on, like within the patriarchal structures, I hate talking about the patriarchies. I feel like we blame everything on the patriarchy and it doesn't actually get to the root of issues and problems and behaviours. But within the patriarchal structures, this idea that all men are rapists or all men are potential rapists, it's a horrible concept and does men a huge disservice because, you know, I hate the not all men argument as well because I think, and Joe said it earlier on, like not all men will perpetrate sexual violence, but all women will experience inappropriate sexual contact or aggression or violence. And that's the discourse. I think it's a difficulty around the discourse. Yeah.
I agree with that point, but I also think that all men are pressured into being sort of villain often all the time.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with you on that.
It does have an effect on you.
Yeah.
And I've certainly seen here, like outside of the sort of, let's say, bad culture, like let's say sports clubs. Let's say there's a place in town to listen to. You see, you know, guys who, you know, I guess a bit more like me, you know, sort of like just so guys who are just regular people.
Yeah.
They are out and they see, you know, a nice girl and they want to go and dance and take them out.
Yeah.
The way that's been proven most effective, I mean, the way that they've seen is if they aren't, you know, trying within 30 years and ask for consent, it's almost what they've seen that's been effective has been grind on them and do aggressively.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying at all. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that that's what guys see and that you have to change.
I think that's a massive attitude that the woman that sorry, not with women should be to sex. I mean, what do you want to be friends with that? And the problem is maybe that you're sort of assuming that the main goal of this is to get sex. The woman can say no, and it's fine if she says no.
I'm not defending this.
I don't think that's changing what men see, it's about changing what men want. Because that tactic will happen and those attitudes will remain. But it's about men not going out and saying other men are getting you to have sex with them by being aggressive. Men are going to be aggressive. What you need to change is the attitude which you're saying women are better sex. That's what you need.
And I think you're talking about as well a culture where women feel pressured to accept that kind of that kind of come on, for want of a better word, because that is a prevalent attitude and that is incredibly dangerous. I think we really have to get out of the mindset that it's up to women to change behaviours in order to deal with sexism better. It's up to men to stop being sexist and violent, because that's what we're talking about, and the kind of behaviours that you're talking about are violent. It might not be punching you in the face, but it's violent.
I'm sorry, but we don't have time for one more question. I'm so sorry.
No, it's alright, I'm kind of constantly prattling on a bit.
I just want to add, like, this is my question, which I think saying that the argument that all men are potential rapists is, I think, turning to means victims because I was insulted and now I genuinely see all men as potential abusers.
Yeah.
And I think that mindset is really great for people that have been insulted, because for me it's helped me because it has made me feel like yeah, it's okay to be scared, like it's okay to, because there is a genuine need for that fear.
Absolutely.
And so I think just dismissing that argument is sort of disrespectful to victims.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't dismiss it in that context. I think what I mean to say is that I can recognise that not all men would perceive themselves as being aggressors, but women quite rightly feel. We had a really interesting conversation. Again, we enjoyed a great chat before we came in here earlier on. Jessica Valenti wrote a fantastic article in The Guardian, I think maybe 2 weeks ago. I'll put it up on Twitter later on, so if anyone wants to read it, they can. And it was talking about the impact of sexism on women's physical and mental health. And what she specifically referenced was a researcher who I think was something to do with the sort of evidence in the article, who was also a runner. I was like, don't understand that mindset at all. But this woman went out jogging, and she was running down the street, and ahead of her she could see a white van with a man standing beside it, and without even thinking about it, without missing a beat, she crossed the road and ran down the other side of the pavement, because in her head the next logical step was, I'm going to run past him, he's going to throw me into the van, drive off and do whatever he's going to do with me. And I think when I read that, it's not like I'd never thought about it before, but it's like the first time I had seen in print somebody who was writing down exactly what my mindset is. When I'm walking down the street, and I live in Glasgow, I don't know how well you know Glasgow. Glasgow's all, it's essentially looks like a potato waffle, if you can imagine it, in terms of the way the streets go. Of choosing which street I'm going to walk down on the basis of where the lights are going to be, where the pubs are going to be, where I'm going to feel safe to walk down, and to get onto the bus or the train or whatever, to get out of the city, to feel safe. And I had never really thought about these unintentional manoeuvres that I take to feel safe. And I
think that is less women should be treated for people in the
yeah.
street, because I feel perfectly valid because of my experiences now.
And so you should.
Valid, because I was assaulted by a friend of 3 years who was sober. I was drunk. I consented to having a year before they came up, and it was okay to sexually assault me. I now am so hyper aware, and my experiences show me that being hyper aware is good, because I was in a situation with people I trusted that should have stopped. It didn't stop.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, all men are genuine threats.
And the thing is, that I think that's absolutely reasonable, and I would never tell any survivor or any victim that how they feel is wrong. And I am incredibly sorry that your trust was breached in such a way, and you didn't deserve it. And I hope that you're taking good care of your own mental health.
My actual thing I would say was a different kind of lab culture that I really come up against. It's lab culture nonetheless, but it's not hetero. It's the casual misogyny that's in gay male culture, because I'm coming up against that so much right now, because they perceive themselves to be non-sexually violent or non-sexually threatening. They think it's okay to invade women's spaces. And my flatmate is a gay male. You say to my landlord is a gay male. And when I talked to him about myself, he said maybe he consented while drunk, and rolled his eyes and continued to still carry on being in my personal space, where I felt very threatened.
A gay friend of mine, who shall remain unnamed, honked my boobs a few weeks ago, and I was just like, what the fuck are you doing? Not only am I married, am I like a person in my own right, I'm the fucking women's officer for the National Union of Students. At what level did you think that I was going to let you do this to me? And huge problem.
There is a sense of entitlement, because I'm not threatening. When you accuse them and say that's not right, you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
They would say, but I'm not into women that way.
No.
And there is
But it doesn't matter what he thinks.
The fact that a lot of gay males, they talk about how a lot of gay males talk about how disgusting women's bodies are and how disgusting the vagina is, which is again misogyny.
Yeah.
And is there being a move to recognise that?
Have you heard?
Or you solely focus on heteronormative?
Have you heard of kyriarchy theory? Right, so I talk about patriarchies, you know, men versus women and the structures within society. Kyriarchy talks about different power structures. So, for example, the power that a gay man has over a gay woman, or the power that a black man has over a white woman, or you know, it's about different characteristics, and it's really, really interesting, because that is actually a huge problem. Within NUS, we have what we call liberation campaigns. So there's women's, LGBT, disabled and black. And each of those are autonomous and led by self-defining officers who lead the campaign, and only self-defining people can get involved in the campaign. The great thing about that means that in terms of liberation politics, people who define into these campaigns are leading the work on their own liberation. Great. Difficulty in that is that as a woman who doesn't identify as LGBT, I have no recourse to get involved in the LGBT campaign. I can work very closely with my LGBT officer colleague, but I don't have influence over that kind of work. I can stand up and say, you know, this is misogyny, that's misogyny, this is the kind of stuff that we're facing, this is sexism, but I don't have any recourse to criticise the LGBT campaign for what work it does or doesn't do in this issue. I know that it's certainly something that's been done UK-wide, looked at that kind of expectation, I suppose, around women's bodies. I don't think it's been worked on to a huge level, but it's certainly something I'm happy to feed back and find out what's going on and email you to let you know if there's any kind of campaigns or materials that you can use. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.